people that have woken up in bed with a stranger. What's your story? Was in college. Went out too hard on a Thursday night because I had no class the next day. Woke up in my own room to a girl standing there getting dressed. I was dumbfounded. She super casually put on her jacket, said I have to get to class, and left before I could even get a word out. I never saw her again. Tried to ask friends who I came home with. Everyone said I just disappeared. Her face is burned into my mind, and now, 5 years later, I have no clue what happened or who I spent the night with. Thursday strikes again. One time at my cousin's house party I was absolutely out of social energy and went to a room to go to sleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night with two of the most jacked dudes I've ever seen curled up together next to me and a unit of a bulldog sleeping in between me and the dudes. One of the guys saw me wake up and he asked if it was cool to sleep there, and I said that I didn't mind, but he should let me have some of the blanket because it was peeping freezing. He said no problem bro, and then tucked me in like some mother hen, and then said good night bro. Sleep was the most strange / wholesome thing I've ever experienced. Undefined. It's not gay to tuck the homies in. Our balls didn't touch, so it was okay. Not woke up with one, but came home from primary school around 11 years of age to find a complete stranger in my bed. Being completely naive thinking he was a family friend, I made us both sandwiches to give to him. I returned to my room to find him gone. I now look back at this with complete horror. My family finds it amusing that it took me years to tell my family about it. The fact that your initial reaction to a home invader was to make them a sandwich might be the oddest thing I've read in this thread. Truly wonderful. The mind of a child is. Not exactly the answer to the question, but my dad told me something scary after his stroke. Because he couldn't feel one side of his body, he would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and think a stranger had broken in and was laying next to him. He would have to calm down and remember that he'd had a major stroke and didn't immediately realize that the person he thought was laying next to him was he himself. That reminds me of a story my mum tells. One night my dad fell asleep on his arm in a position that made it go numb. When he woke up he felt a hand on his neck, didn't realize it was his own, grabbed it and threw himself out of bed. I once did almost this exact same thing. I was asleep on my stomach with both arms up under my pillow. My left arm had apparently fallen asleep. Half awake and half asleep I moved enough so that my right hand touched my left hand, which didn't feel like it belonged to me. What the peep is this dead hand doing underneath of my pillow? Is a hell of a way to wake up. I know a guy who went home with a stranger. Went pee in the middle of the night naked. Went back to bed. Woke up to screaming. He had gone back to the wrong room and was naked in her mother's bed. Ouch. When I had my son, I couldn't sleep. I told my doctor I hadn't slept a full night in 13 months. Most nights I was getting only an hour or two, and I couldn't sleep during the day. I'd try to nap, but I'd just stare at the ceiling. My doctor prescribed me Ambien. The first night I took it and went to bed. Sometime during the night, my husband brought the baby into our bed. I woke up to find a baby covered in rainbows and tiny little gnomes. Me. Honey. Honey. Wake up. There's a baby in our bed. Husband. I know. You're going to wake him up. Me. Do his parents know he's here? Husband. His dad does. Go to sleep. Don't worry. His mom will figure it out eventually. Probably not what you imagined. As a kid, I would sleepwalk at night. In the morning, I would have no recollection of what happened. I spent the night at a friend's house when I was about 10. And the family had a fire going in the fireplace in their living room. My friend's mom decided to sleep on the couch to make sure the fire went out, and the dad went to sleep in the parents' bedroom. Due to the door to their bedroom always being closed, I had never been inside. Was very disorienting the next morning when I awoke in said bedroom, as the dad was just waking up and getting out of his bed. He had assumed during the night I was his son and didn't question anything when I slipped into bed with him. Kudos to dad for not making it any more awkward than it already was. And that's the story of how I awoke next to my friend's dad. My freshman year roommate warned me on day 1 that he was a sleepwalker. A few months later I woke up to a weird smell, rolled over and saw him standing in front of the microwave watching a whole loaf of bread spin around inside as the plastic melted and smoke billowed out in his face. I yelled, "Dude, what the peep?" He said direct quote, "It's fine," and just got back in bed. I ran over and opened the microwave to shut it off. 30 seconds later fire alarms are blaring and the whole building is being evacuated. We get downstairs and I peep you not. He looks at me and says, "I bet some dumb peeper burned popcorn again." I don't know how that dude even made it to 18 without killing himself. It can be quite scary. My craziest story involves jumping through a double-paned window 5 stories off the ground, with only 30 stitches to the back of one leg as a consequence. It could have been so much worse. Was a female in my mid-20s and fell asleep in a 60-man's hotel bed after a night of drinking in restaurant across from said hotel. What could have been a recipe for disaster turned into him saying back quote, "If I ever had a daughter I hope she'd be just like you. I called ya a cab and here's your wallet. Be safe now." Got really drunk at a dorm party. Ended up carrying a passed out girl up to her room 3 flights of stairs. Elevator was out. Plunked her in her bed. Took her shoes off. Then passed out on her floor. She woke me up by stepping on me and yelling at me. I was too hungover to argue and just left. Oof. I was in college staying near campus and decided to go to a frat party. I decided to walk home before the liquor kicked in too much. By the time I got home I was blacking out. I barely made it. Got to my bed and passed out. Didn't even take my shoes off, lol. I woke up off and on throughout the night feeling some person next to me. I figured it was a girl I had been dating. She'd come over if she got scared at night or some to sleep at my place. I never thought much of it. She cuddled me that night and it felt amazing. Guys love being the little spoon sometimes. The sun woke me up and I decided to go pee. I remember having to step over her to get out the bed. Losing my balance cause I was still drunk. I go pee, come back, and notice this is not the girl I'm dating. Also she's in bra/panties. I then notice I only have boxers on. Don't remember getting undressed. My clothes are folded on my computer chair next to a half-eaten grilled cheese. I immediately go to my roommate's room to ask who TF she is. He's in bed with his girl. I woke him up and he said the girl claimed she knew me. I was afraid. I go back to the living area until she wakes up. Apparently she didn't have a ride home and since she stayed far I drunkenly offered her a place to crash. She helped me walk home, unlocked the door for me cause I was out of it, undressed me, and folded my clothes. Then she made me grilled cheese cause I was drunkenly begging for one. I ate half of it and laid down. Initially she was on the couch, but said I was calling to her loudly like a banshee, lol. She cuddled me until I fell asleep, then she fell asleep, lol. I was embarrassed and thankful. She took care of me, lol. I took her home and we laughed about it. We stayed friends for a long time. Hung out more than a few times. We were never more than friend because I was already dating someone. Sometimes I wonder if she was the one for me. IDK how we lost touch. I don't even like grilled cheese. I don't even like grilled cheese. Honestly the most WTF thing of the whole story. Away at college. Went to a bar. Met a girl. I woke up the next morning in an on-campus apartment sharing a recliner with said girl. Neither of us lived on campus or knew who lived in the apartment we ended up at. Did the apartment owner know y'all were there? I've no idea. The on-campus apartments had a main room and then up to 3 separate bedrooms. We both left early before anyone woke up that I can recall.